Hello and welcome to another episode of PRFC Fan Show, a fan show by fans for fans. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Edward.
We are so glad that you're here. We're excited because we've got all sorts of new segments coming to the show. In fact, we have two new segments coming up today, and the first one is called Tweet of the Week.
For this week, our tweet comes from an account called Bands FC. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I've seen it this week.
It's a very cool account. What they do is they take band logos and they mash those up with soccer crests. This week, they actually picked Phoenix Rising as one of their designs. It's a very cool tweet. It's very cool that we got featured on that account. There's a lot of buzz around that.
Yeah, Fallout Boy, Phoenix Rising, Pete Wentz is our man, so it makes sense. I did like your Van Halen logo on Phoenix Rising, but they don't own part of the team, so we'll go with Fallout Boy.
Yeah, I like to think mine was better, but no, actually, Bands FC's designs are phenomenal. You should definitely check those out.
I'm here with Seth Dobson. Seth, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Seth is the man behind Stats Rising. And Seth, I am really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say about Phoenix Rising from the world of statistics, because what you've shown me is fascinating. So I'm just going to turn it right over to you.
Alrighty, let me share my screen with you. What I want to show everybody today is a chart that I put together with some of the data on expected goals that I've been tracking this season. So just in a nutshell, expected goals is basically a way of counting shots where you give extra weight to shots that are from good locations because they would be expected to be scored more frequently. So I have a database where I calculated historical conversion rates from different shot locations, and I apply those conversion rates to the shot and key pass totals for different players, and that's how I arrive at the expected goal contribution for each of the players. So if that doesn't make sense right now, don't worry, we're going to be talking about expected goals constantly, so you'll get it eventually. So what I want to show you though is a way of looking at expected goal contribution, the distribution of those values across the players, and kind of how even or uneven the distribution is. So in this chart, it's called a tree map. It's a way of looking at a distribution of values. And what it's showing is the size of the box is the scaled to the actual goal contribution for that player. So for example, Jason Johnson, we can see here, the goal contribution is 10.17, meaning his shots and key passes, which are passes that lead to a shot, add those up and from different locations, and he's contributing to around 10 goals, expected goals. Compare that to Kevon Lambert, and his value is 3.56. So you can see the size of the box is related to the value of the number. Asante obviously is being our best player and our playmaker. He's got the largest value, so he's got the largest box. The other thing that this chart shows is whether someone is above or below average. So that's what the color is indicating. So all the boxes that are in the red zone, that kind of pink to salmon color, those are all above average for expected goal contribution, and the gray zone is below average. So looking at the size and the color pattern, you can get a sense of how even or unevenly distributed each player's expected goal contribution is. So I also have the ability to filter by different matches. So right now we're just looking across all the matches, all 20 matches so far, and you can see some fairly obvious things that everybody knows. The three-pronged attack, as Kevin calls it, with Solo being our main playmaker and the source of most of our chances, and then Chris Cortez and JJ, making up the rest of that, majority of our attack, right? values, by the way, will be related highly to the number of games that the player has played. So somebody like Alessandro Rigi, he doesn't have a very high value. He hasn't played that many games. So you have to take that into consideration. But what we're mostly interested in is just the way that the attack is distributed and the expected goal contribution is distributed. And the reason why we're interested in it is because I want to take a look at last game, which was not a great performance from us. That's match number, and hopefully we'll switch to that. Whoa. So basically what you're seeing here is a lot of Chris Cortez and not much from anybody else. So that's not a great distribution of expected goal contribution. I mean, Chris is doing his job. Other guys are not so much. And you can see, some really key players are falling on the very low end of expected goal contribution. So what you want to see ideally is something more like in the previous match against the Sounders. You had several players that were above average for expected goal contribution, suggesting that the attack was kind of being spread out among several players instead of concentrated on one player. And you can see that in the way that the relative sizes of these squares and also their color. And this is more like what you want to see on a typical basis, and with our very best player, our playmaker, having the highest overall expected goal contribution. So the fact that this didn't happen, against the Monarchs, that's up for the management team to figure out, as far as, was that something that we were doing wrong? Were the players, having an off night, or was there something tactically that the opposition was doing that was leading to that situation? And if that's the case, how do we prevent or counter that in the future if other teams try to do the same thing? So this is just an introduction to kind of how we can look at player performance in any given match and overall, and hopefully it's clear as mud, and we can get more into the details and figuring this all out together as we move through subsequent shows.
Now, Seth, as you switch back from the chart to yourself, a couple things that I wanted to note from this. First of all, it's interesting because the amount of data that goes into this is huge, and Seth has actually taken data that is based across a lot of input that we don't see. So when we see Chris Cortez with the big red box in a game where he didn't actually score, there's a reason for that, right? We see that rankings can be very close to each other. And this is something we can't get done in one episode, but Seth, you're going to introduce over time. Another thing we discussed was that there isn't a way just yet to be able to differentiate between number of games played and number of minutes actually played, which would be a more accurate way of looking at things. And so lots to come, lots to do, but I do want to give you props because the amount of work you put into getting this data, over 70,000 goals, I think, alone in your data.
My database, which the expected goal calculations is based off of, has over 70,000 shots in it, right? So that's how I calculate rate for shots from different locations on the pitch. And that's based on a wide variety of leagues from across the globe. So not specifically Phoenix Rising. I'm just applying that data and those insights to the Phoenix Rising data from this season.
It's amazing stuff, great insight. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We will be doing it in the future. There's more statistics to come, more footy to play. Seth, thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you on the next go-round.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
USL, yeah! USL, no!
A big USL yeah going out to the USL. Yeah. The league has decided to expand the 2019 season to 33 weeks, which is 2 weeks longer than the current format. You might be selfishly asking yourself, so that's great, but what does this have to do with me? Well, don't worry, I'm going to tell you. What it means is more weekend games. It's better for fans with kids, better for fans who like to drink, better for fans who have kids who like to drink. It's better for everybody. Well, actually, maybe it's not better for those alcoholic kids. They should probably get some help. Anyways, 38 teams are going to be competing in 2019, and the season is set to kick off on March 8th. So, to more competition and fewer Wednesday games, I say USL, yeah.
USL no.
This week we have a huge USL no. Look at it. Look at it! No! No. I am here with Michael Vanderplas. Michael, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
We are so glad to be here because Michael is like the mainstay, the cornerstone in many ways for the Red Fury. There are a lot of key players in the Red Fury, but Michael is certainly, well, we'll say the guy with the megaphone, leading the chants, leading the parades, doing the whole 9 yards.
I would have to say the McPhersons are the cornerstone, but I'll help them out.
You know, shout out to the McPhersons, that's fair, but Michael does do a lot for the Red Furies. So I wanted to ask you, what's your history there? How did you join the Red Furies? Where did your interest come from?
So I've always been interested, like that's a big part of why I got into soccer is the supporter, like the supporter involvement in the sport. Like there's no other real sport that that you're like that the fans have as much voice as they do in soccer. So when I moved back to Arizona from California, I had heard about the Wolves when I was in California. Mm-hmm. So I moved back. It was the first year in Scottsdale, I believe. Mm-hmm. Went to a game, found the supporter section, got a ticket in the supporter section, found the Red Fury, and just been with them since.
History from there. Well, that's interesting. Now, how did you become the man with the megaphone?
Andrew had been doing it for us for a while, Andrew Baker. Mm-hmm. He had asked if there was anybody who was willing to help him out when he wasn't able to do it. I volunteered to do so. And then he decided that he wasn't able to do it anymore. So they let me do it. We decided that if anybody else wanted to lead chants, they can just jump in and help me out whenever. And that's pretty much.
They were like, Michael is doing it so well, there's no way we're going to try and take over this, so you know what, he's the man for the job.
No, once in a while people will still jump in and
I'm going to walk up there and kick your ass off the front of the line and just grab the megaphone.
Do it.
I'll get booed off the freaking stadium. So, do you have a favorite chant?
Probably our rendition of the Will Griggs chant.
Help us out. What is that?
The Will Griggs on fire. But it's Phoenix is rising. Your defense is terrified, and then they go da 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 da.
That's where the arms start swinging. Da 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 da.
Beer starts flying.
Yep, it's. And you do notice that there's a little swaying by the end of the game usually because a little drinking is going on. Have you written any chants for the Fury?
So I think I wrote that one. I've written a few other ones. Worked on a few. Bruce, the main drummer, he usually brings the whole drum set. He's come up with a few chants. We all pretty much just work on them together.
Great. That's wonderful. I have chants that I've been doing.
Yeah.
A little subpar maybe, but I do have one that's kind of what's the right word? Edward's back here behind the camera. It's a little spicy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it's got some flavor to it.
It's dirty. It's full of metaphors, and I'll have to show it to you, see what you think.
Is that the soap one? Or
No, shaving cream one. No, it's different. Okay. No, this one starts off with, we've got the balls if you've got the net. If you think this is a metaphor, then you would be correct.
Okay.
And it gets worse from there.
Okay.
So, you're a big fan. You obviously have a lot of the gear. What's your favorite piece of swag?
So, I haven't received it yet, but so when they were doing the voting for JJ for Goal of the Month and for Musa for Player of the Month, Sam was doing the voting. If you sent him a screenshot of voting, then you would get a chance to win one of these training tops, the camo training tops. So I'm not even sure which one I got yet, the Musa or the JJ one. But either way, I'm cool with it.
Sweet piece of swag. Yeah.
Justin, who's another member of Red Fury, got the other one. So either way, works out.
Very cool. So associated with that, do you have a favorite moment with a player that you've had so far with the team?
Yeah, so this year when they were doing, they had some of the players in the ticketing office. Devontae Dubose earlier in the year had a video, and they shouted me out in the video. And then Cody Wakasa did it later in the year. And that meant a lot to me because it's players shouting you out.
Yeah, and the Cody one was fairly recently. I remember that one happening. Very cool. It's always nice to see the players recognizing us for the work we do, and you do so much work. And that's something in the interviews I did with the players, every player talks about how much they appreciate the supporters and all the hard work that they put in. They recognize that there's a lot of work that goes in there. So if somebody wants to become a member of the Red Fury, how do they do that?
So just come join us in our section is the easiest way.
Now wait a minute, you guys told me $50.
Yeah, if you there are buy-ins if you would like to be like an official member, get the scarf, the T-shirt, have like voting privileges if we ever do do anything that needs to get voted on, then we do that. But yeah, most people just come and join us in the section. We try to show them a good time, and then usually they sign up after that.
You know, we have some great footage from fans in the Seattle Sounders game, and I did a lot of footage in the supporters group. And what's great to see is that there were so many Red Fury, there were so many Los Banditos, and then the regular fans, we'll call them in between. They were so submerged with both sides, they just totally got into it. I mean, that whole area was chaos. It was really, I mean, the best supporter section I think we've had so far this season. It was just because it was like jam-packed full of chaotic people.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So aside from PRFC, we know that you are a big Man U fan.
I like to call them United. But
oh yeah, that's right. See, faux pas already. See, I even stuttered because my little brain said there's something different I should do here. I'm a Man U fan too for the BPL or Bundesliga guy, but if I do BPL, it's Man U. First team I ever saw. This is a real Man U a United supporter, so he gets sticky on this kind of thing. So how'd you become a United supporter?
So about 12, probably like 10, 12 years ago. I got into the sport. I'd watched like the World Cup before, the one in the U.S. and then the one in Japan. But I didn't really ever pick a club team like that. So I had some friends that were into the sport. Sat down and watched one of the Champions League games with them, probably 2006. Wasn't the year that we won the Champions League. I think it was the year before that. But yeah, just really liked the players, liked Cristiano Ronaldo, Rooney, Scholes, Giggs, all those players.
They were stacked back then.
Yeah, and then you look back, you read into the history later, and you see that they've got a great history of like academy players coming through, and trophies and everything like that. So.
You know, it's interesting. People usually go, when they say favorite players, with Ronaldo or Rooney, which I really, of course, like both of them. I'm a Scholes guy. I just think Scholes was the guy who was like creating so much for the team, and I played midfield, so I'd watch him and learn from what he was doing. Very good stuff. So Man U was in town, or United was in town just recently for the International Cup. How boring was that game?
Wasn't boring at all. I mean,
I had to be sarcastic one time.
The action on the field was a little bit boring, but it wasn't boring at all. We had some people from out of town. We had some people from New Mexico, Albuquerque. We had some people from Canada, some people from England. They all came and pregame with us. We got on the news a few times. They filmed us marching into the stadium. We were over there at Salt by Westgate and just had a good time pre-gaming for it.
Yeah,
that's the best part, being around fellow fans.
You should tell people that the name of your group, where you can go and watch Man U or United games when you want to.
Yeah, so Phoenix Red Devils. We meet at the Woodshed on Baseline and Mill in Tempe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. I haven't been to that one. I have been to a United game at George and the Dragon. This was a couple of years ago. Had a great time. Always fun to be there with people who love footy, just like at a PRFC game.
Yeah.
So we are going to skip over the San Jose Earthquakes game because that's very forgettable.
Okay.
And I guess the last thing, I wanted to ask you one more thing, and what was it? What do you think about Rooney getting picked up by DC United?
So I think the MLS is going to be a little bit tougher for him than it is most players coming over to the U.S. Rooney has been playing since he was 18, so he's kind of beat up, 16, 17 years playing. He's also not kept himself in the best shape.
Nope.
Like Zlatan is as fit as they come. Ronaldo is fit as they come. Rooney has always had some chubbiness to him, doesn't really take care of himself. Likes to drink a little bit too much.
Yeah, he does drink a lot. And he's
so
got that temper that comes with it.
I think that the MLS might be more physical for him and might be a little bit more of an issue for him.
You know, I hadn't really considered that, but Rooney is a bit of a bulldog, you know, but it's because the BPL allows him to be a bulldog, and they will not allow that in the MLS. They will come right back at him.
Yep.
I had not thought of that. That's a great observation, actually. So last question. If you had to choose between PRFC and United, who would you choose?
Oh, it's got to be PRFC. It's local all day. It's having a team here in Phoenix. You got to go with the local club all day.
Yeah, and it's just fun to have them. We've got a great game coming up tonight against Real Monarchs. Any ideas on which way that game's going to go?
I'm really hoping we win this one. We don't play the greatest on the road. We kind of play for draws on the road, but I'm hoping that we can get a result from this one. This is probably our most important game of the season so far, so
I agree.
hoping.
I agree. We played well on the road when we were at lower tier teams, but not otherwise, and so it's going to be very interesting to see how we do tonight. But we are going to root for them. I appreciate your time. We'll be at Vela Luna and checking out the game.
All right.
Appreciate you stopping by.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Michael.
That's going to do it for this week. If you liked the episode, make sure to subscribe on Facebook and also follow our Twitter account at PRFC Fan Show.
We appreciate you watching the show. This is the PRFC Fan Show, a fan show by fans.
For fans.
We'll see you next time.